Well, this weekend, hundreds of thousands of high school juniors and seniors are going to be taking one of the most important tests in their lives. It's the SAT. The college admissions test has had its share of controversy, from accusations of bias to the recent cheating scandal on Long Island. Here to talk about all that and more is Scott Farber. He's the president and founder of A-List Education. Scott, welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
What was your first reaction when you heard about the cheating scandal on Long Island? Were you surprised about that?
You know, in reality, I wasn't. I think we put so much pressure on this test. Students recognize that it's such a big factor, not just in admissions, but also in whether or not they'll even be able to afford the college they get into. SAT scores factor into merit-based scholarships and all the rest, and you take a look at a high-pressure community like Great Neck, even just the whole North Shore of Long Island, you've got a lot of students aiming at a few number of spots. Not surprisingly, those that think they could get a competitive edge might go a little bit further than we'd like.
You know, it's always been assumed that money makes a big difference, whether it's hiring somebody to coach you for the test or whether it's outright cheating, hiring somebody to take the test for you. And the price wasn't cheap, by the way. It was a couple of $1,000 apparently to get this test taken.
And not cheap, and really I think you hit on something so important. We don't have a level playing field for this test, and no matter how you look at it, having an advantage on this test can play huge into the future for many students. Even something as being able to afford a more expensive calculator on this test, the TI-89, the TI-85 that allow you to graph is a $150 calculator. Not every student can afford that. So even along the lines of money being able to buy access just to do well on the test, certainly putting somebody in the seat for you, definitely terrible. But across the board, we just don't make it a level playing field.
No, it isn't. Can it be made a level playing field?
You know, honestly, I think if the schools did more to bring SAT preparation inside the school day, which is what we do a lot of, we focus on institutional relationships. More than half our students actually are not paying a single dollar for preparation. Our friends at the Harlem Children's Zone, and we run specialized programs for youth and foster care, and schools inside the New York City Department of Education, that really allows a level playing field, because then you're really giving every student access to the same thing.
Do you think schools are preparing students well enough for college as it is on any level, not just the tests?
You know, honestly, I think the statistics are scary. You take a look at the recent reports out that say New York City high school seniors, of the ones that are graduating, only a third are really college ready. We're doing a really terrible disservice to them because we're setting up a pipeline to failure, and we see this in the huge dropout rates at the community colleges. This happens here in New York City inside of the community college system. When you take a look at CUNY, we see some graduation rates that really are very unfortunate, because we're pushing students through. They're taking out loans to pay for credits that actually don't wind up qualifying towards graduation. And because we didn't adequately prepare them in high school, we've really dropped them on the door of colleges, destined to fail.
When do you come into the game? When do you start working with students?
You know, in truth, I'd like to start earlier rather than later. I think one of the biggest mistakes is that we think of this test as something that happens junior year. But the truth is, the skill sets that the SAT is looking for are fundamentally important, whether you're taking the SAT or just trying to perform well in high school or beyond. One of the things I point out to students is vocabulary is key, but students don't really enjoy reading. So we have to make sure that they're starting this earlier. You can't cram a dictionary down your throat the night before the SAT.
Right.
One of the things that we developed is something called vocab videos, just to make it more accessible to students. They can watch video clips on their phone, on TV, through their computer, and this gives them a real advantage because we talk about it not just for the test, but because learning English is something you're going to use for the rest of your life. So what we'd really love to do is start talking to students in 9th and 10th grade to give them a heads up for what's coming, so that it doesn't become a cram session in the 2 months before the test.
Best tip you've got for the students now who are going to be taking the test this weekend?
Take a deep breath, and you're more than a test score. The truth of the matter is the college admissions process is much bigger than any one number, and no matter what happens on this test, the rest of your application really does play a role.
All right, Scott Farber, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And by the way, give me your website real quick.
Sure, alisteducation.com.
Okay, Scott Farber. That'll do it for New York Nightly News. Talk Stoop is next here on Nonstop. I'll see you at 11 on News 4 New York. Thanks for joining us. Good night.